What's poppin', guys? Kyle here, back on the podcast channel once again, and today we're gonna really take a dive into a question that gets brought up a lot. Is WWE in a boom period right now? Now, this comment on my video, my previous video, that is, really got me thinking about this, because they're like, well, you shouldn't criticize it because it's in a boom period right now. And, it got me all pissed off or whatever. Because, I've already been pissed off for like the past 4 or 5 videos. So, you might as well keep the trend going, right? Okay, so here's how this video is going to go. I'm going to dig into the stats here. And look, is WWE actually in a boom period right now? Are the ratings like through the roof? You know what I mean, right? And then once I see that, I'll discuss whether I think the product's good or not. And then after that, I'm going to be giving a channel update because, I'm getting a little angry in these videos. I do have an update on that, and I think, it'll be something that you guys want to hear because it's in a positive direction, right? So, alright, so here we are now. We are on the magical website. I think it is magical because, it's WrestleNomics, and it tells you the ratings of every show, like even AEW ones, if I was curious about that, which, I've been curious about AEW in the past couple weeks, so, let's see how that is. And so what we're looking for here is, what are the ratings for WWE and what has it been like in the past year? And here we go. So we got the graph here. And so the time that I think where WWE fell off was after WrestleMania 40, right? So as we know, WrestleMania is in March, April, this time of year, right? So we're going to look, okay, not AEW. We won't care about AEW right now. But what we're looking for is, what were the ratings for Raw and SmackDown in this time period as to now, right? So this is at around WrestleMania. Now, I'm trying to think, like, because this Raw was probably the Raw after WrestleMania because it got a jump to 2.3 million viewers. This is on the USA Network, mind you. And then here's SmackDown, April 5th, jumps to 2.6 million viewers. So these are probably the shows after WrestleMania, right? So SmackDown, right, at their peak at their peak last year. This is what I always get at in my videos, and everyone's like, "Oh, you're crazy! Oh, there's no way! This is a boom period right now, right?" Yeah, it was a boom period. A year ago was a boom period. During WrestleMania 40, it was a boom period, right? Here we go, 2.6 million viewers. This is crazy, you know what I mean? On Fox, on Fox, and we'll get into what the ratings were on Fox, but you can see here, throughout, I would say, half of the year, SmackDown was really dominating Raw in the ratings, like, by 500,000 here, you know what I mean? Like, by 500,000 people. SmackDown on average was getting 500,000 more people than Raw was getting. So as for why that is, I just think it was because it was on USA Network. Now, if Raw was on Fox, I bet it would be getting these numbers too. I don't think it's anything to do with the content, really. But look at what happens here. So after this peak here, which is presumably, this is in the time of WrestleMania, right? After this time, look at what starts to happen week by week. Couple 100,000 leave, another 100,000, another 100,000. Now, and then here we go. So, okay, so here we go. We went from 2.6 million viewers on April 5th to now they were at 2.1 million on April 26th. So, what happened in between this time? And this even happened on Raw too, you know what I mean? This valley happened on Raw as well. And I know there is peaks and valleys here. It goes up here a little bit. This is May 31st. That was probably around PLE's time. Like, I think that was around the King of the Ring time. So WWE's weekly television was certainly peaking in that time period. Raw's ratings generally stood around the same through all this, and it started to really decline, I would say, after. So now we're at SummerSlam here in July. I would say that there were still some decent stories going on around this time. You had the Rhea and Liv story. It was on Raw, but yeah, 1.8 million viewers on that date on July 1st. That was probably. This was right around the time when the Rhea and Liv Morgan feud started, so, the ratings were still looking pretty decent here. Then here we go. So we're on August 9th, this is the highest ratings that SmackDown has gotten ever since this point. Yeah, I'm correct. So this is the highest ratings that SmackDown has gotten up to this point, and Raw's as well, at 1.8 million viewers. So we can assume that. So this is obviously around the time of SummerSlam, right? But notice what happens after SummerSlam. After a Big Four PLE, right? The ratings just start to drive down. And the thing is here, right? So we're in November at this point, right? This is when Survivor Series is, right? And look, here's the thing. Not even Survivor Series was recovering the ratings. They were generally at the same place here. And it kind of stayed that way it's been pretty much that same way ever since the new year started, which is another thing. So I guess on this graph they don't have the ratings for it on Raw, because this was the last Raw episode they had on the USA Network. It was at 1.5. Look at this. Okay, so this was the last episode in 2024. It was at 1.5 million viewers. And then this was the peak episode for the entire year, which was at 2.3 million viewers. And right, this is what I'm getting at here. How can you guys say that, this is a boom period, when all of the shows had a rating peak? Now, look, it's obvious that, like, around WrestleMania time, that's when the ratings are going to be high, right? But if everything was so great all around, then why would the ratings take a nosedive like that? All the way down to now we're at 1.5 million on December 30th, last episode of Raw on the USA Network. And I know that they don't have data for Raw on Netflix here, and I'm going to have to fill in some voids here. So then here we go. So this was the first episode of 2025, SmackDown here. It was at 1.5 million viewers. It kind of declines a little bit. This is kind of like around the PLE time, right? Kind of declines a little bit. And here we go. This is around the time of the Saturday night's main event. This was a SmackDown before the Saturday night main event, the most recent one. And then here we go the next week. It got a little bump to it went from 1.4 the previous week to 1.5 the next week. So it is kind of a trend too that, like, usually people will watch the Raw after a certain PLE, whatever. I get that's true, but like I said here, so now we're on to the road to WrestleMania here, right? This is that's interesting. So this is the Raw. So this is SmackDown before the Royal Rumble, actually. And after the Royal Rumble, it declined a little bit. Wow, that's interesting. Because usually, like, the Royal Rumble usually starts the road to WrestleMania. Although I believe this year I believe it's kind of different with Raw being on Netflix now. Like, I really felt like that was like the kickoff to the road to WrestleMania. You know what I mean? So this was last week's SmackDown. It got 1.4 million viewers on the USA Network. I also forgot to mention, so SmackDown was on Fox for a little bit here. The last one was on September 13th. And ever since then, they've been on the USA Network. And they have not been able to get nearly as much viewers as Fox is. Now, I know it's USA Network. It's kind of a niche network. Fox is a pretty mainstream network. Like, it's a pretty common one to find. You know what I mean? It's pretty popular as well. So I get that there will be a decline in viewership, but you go from like 1.7 to 1.4 million. I mean, that's a loss of like around 300,000 viewers a week. I mean, on average, you know what I mean here? Yeah, and what I've noticed is, what I noticed was that, like, right, in this era, and another thing I noticed was, like, right, I remember in my last video, I was talking about how, like, the Roman and the Solo Sikoa story, right, they were consistently, not consistently, but even in that time period when I thought that there was at least like one good storyline going on SmackDown, it was getting around the same viewership every week, generally, right? And then there was that one. Wow, 1.2 million. I mean, that's kind of where they're at. I mean, no, it's not really where they're at now. I wonder why it declined to that much. I mean, that's crazy. But that must have been a pretty bad episode. I don't even remember it, because every episode now is just so unmemorable, right? You know what I mean? I want these shows to be memorable, but they just do the same stuff every week. And, there's definitely a lot of hardcore fans out there that see that and they're like, well, if I'm going to get the same show every week, then what's the point of watching it, right? So now I'm going to try and find the Raw ratings here. So this was quarterly. This doesn't really account for ratings weekly, and I guess, like, I don't know, like, I can't find the, like, Raw here on Netflix. They don't have the data for it, I guess. And based off the data I've been seeing from Raw on Netflix, it looks like the data has been really stagnant. So whether that's a good sign for WWE, I would say it isn't, because you would think, right, okay, Netflix is now on a streaming service, right? So it can be bought and seen by anybody from around the world. And I thought, okay, like, right, when it went to Netflix, I thought the product would honestly get better, and I don't think it really has gotten better. You know, you still have a lot of the common problems on Raw that you do have on SmackDown too, like the champions not showing up, these drawn out intros too. It's like, I don't care about the wrestlers walking into the arena, like, and also, a good chunk of the time, too, is like showing replays from last week. It's like, I saw what happened last week. I was watching the show last week. Why do you need to keep showing people this? Now, I get why they do it, of course, but I just think it wastes time when you show people that stuff. Okay, so now let's go to the top of the website here. And there's another thing that I really do cite in a lot of my videos. I'm like, I always say, like, oh, you know, back in the day, the ratings were so high, or, you know, the ratings used to be better and all that stuff, and people will be, and I just am starting to just receive a lot of hate comments being like, oh, there's no way, there's no way, this is a boom period right now, right? So let's go to the Monday Night War. So this was during the prime time of WWE, like Raw was going pretty, you know, like Raw was pretty insane around this time, you know? Okay, like, right, so let's see what the Raw ratings were like back in the Attitude Era, right? Which, you know, all of these wrestlers are like, this era is better than the Attitude Era, you know, it's unreal, you know what I mean? I can't stop thinking about Punk, right? You know what I mean? So, at the start here, so we're in 1995 here. The ratings are at 2.2 million for Raw, and WCW Nitro is at 1.4 million. I guess they haven't seen their peak yet, really. So, as it went on, I would say WCW Nitro had a rocky start to it. But then they started to gain momentum around 1996, whenever Hulk Hogan debuted, right? So that's at 3, right? So this is July, okay, right? So this is in 1996 here, and I want to say the saying about this was that WCW Nitro was beating Raw in the ratings for 83 weeks in a row here, right? So, I mean, it is certainly adding up, but it seems like this one episode of Raw, May 4th, 1998, got a peak at 5.5 million viewers, right? And another thing, so this probably was the 83-week span that they were talking about here, except they go to the January 4th episode of 1999. Okay, so the reason why I'm going to the Raw on January 4th, 1999, the reason why this time period was noteworthy was that this was the last time that WCW was competitive in the ratings. Was that right? On that week of WCW Nitro, so WCW thought that if they revealed what happened on Monday Night Raw, that means less people will watch. But it turns out almost 1 million more people watched it that week. And from that week on, WCW's ratings just continued to drop. I mean, it got real bad here. I mean, this is looking like, you know, modern times of, you know, SmackDown or whatever. Like, okay, so let me put this into perspective here. So, WCW Nitro at its worst was pulling more viewers weekly, on average, than WWE is on SmackDown right now. And this is about where the ratings are for Raw right now. It's around the 2 million range here. And this is with the product being international, right? So that means anybody around the world can pop on Netflix and watch it. And then what happened with WWE here? They just continue to climb up, right? We're at 6.4 million viewers here on March 22nd, 1999. And then the peak here, this looks like it's the peak here, at 7.4 million viewers. So this is literally competing with Monday Night Football here. And this is like generally, like look at this. This is like 6 to 7 million viewers per week. Like, this was obviously in Raw's peak. Like, there's no, like, based off all the data I've seen, this was Raw's peak, and this was when they moved to TNN, which, it was basically Spike before Spike because it renamed. So, at this point here, so right, they got a drop in viewership, and, you know, but even still, on a network where, you know, it wasn't the most mainstream, they were able to get 4 million people on average to watch this. The reason why I'm bringing this up here is that Raw on Netflix right now, which Netflix is a pretty mainstream streaming platform, right? They can't even manage to get this many people to watch it, based off what I've seen with the data here. So, the idea that, you know, WWE is in this boom period right now, you know, it's better than the Attitude Era, right, is completely ridiculous to me, because Raw on Netflix right now can't even pull this amount of viewers. They can't even pull 4 million with it being a pretty mainstream and, you know, it being worldwide and stuff. They can't even pull these numbers with all of that. Meanwhile, on Monday Night Raw in like 2001 was getting 5.3 million viewers on a network that wasn't even the most mainstream at the time. Like USA Network, I believe it was kind of mainstream at this time, so it does help with viewers. But like TNN was like, it was a brand new network. Like like how much viewers were you really getting on that, right? It wasn't a really popular network in its inception, I believe. But even here, even though it was on a network that wasn't really, like I said, it wasn't that mainstream, they were still pulling 4 to 5 million viewers a week. And the Raws and SmackDowns now, they can't even touch this. I don't know, I just find that crazy. Okay, so then here's another metric that I wanted to show you guys. So this was in the beginning. Obviously, I can like change the pages or whatever. Like I could probably flip this part here to where it's in 1999 here, right? So as of right now here, this is in 1995. So almost 30 years ago at this point, right? So Raw 30 years ago was averaging 2 million viewers on average. WCW looks like it was as well. The reason why I'm mentioning this is that this was considered to be in one of WWE's worst eras, you know what I mean? Like the Superstar era. This was in the era where, they had to phase out a lot of the steroid, the big guys like Hulk Hogan and the Macho Man, like, and in place of that, they brought in more slimmer guys like Bret Hart, Shawn Michaels, Kevin Nash, Diesel. You know what I mean? I mean, he's a big guy, but you know what I mean. Like, I don't think he's necessarily was a guy back in the day that was on steroids, but you know what I mean. So these are the big superstars in this era. And look, there was nothing wrong with those guys, but it just really showed, like, with a lot of the story writing and stuff like that, that this was in WWE's worst ever. And look, there's nothing wrong with those guys, but based off the ratings and the fan coverage, people, and I agree, I've seen some storylines from that era, and I agree that it is one of WWE's worst eras. And the reason why I'm mentioning this is that they had 2 million views in that era. And right now, Raw is getting those same numbers. I'm checking here the Raw ratings right now on a different device that's not this here, and it's at around 2 million too. So you're telling me, right, Raw in 1995 was on the USA Network, right? Now, the thing with the USA Network was back in the day, it was more popular than, of course, it is today. And of course, you could say the same too about cable TV in general. Like, streaming services and streaming as a whole, it's generally the new thing. So that means that cable TV is not as popular as it once used to be, obviously in the 90s, right? So you'd think, right, with Raw going to a streaming service in this day and age, you'd think it would get more viewers than 2 million, especially considering that people from around the world can see this. So you're telling me that Raw in its worst era was competing with Raw right now in terms of ratings, and somehow we're supposed to believe that we're in a boom period right now, like, oh, the product it's bigger than ever. Now, okay, I'm actually going to show you guys something. So I actually see why a lot of people say that the product is in a boom period right now, and this is what I mean, folks, right? So the product in 2023 made $1.3 billion, right? So this is why I think people attach onto this logic that, the product's it's better than it ever has been, right? Because it makes more money than ever. But does that mean that it's necessarily a good product? Now here's another thing. I remember when I watched WWE in this era, 2017, 2018. I remember in this era watching WWE. And I remember all the time how, there was a lot of advertisers, and, there was always talk about how, oh, the company's we're doing better than ever, right? But the on-screen product wasn't good. The storylines were not that good, and people were saying that the product was better than it ever had been in this time period. Well, I think at this point we could say, because we don't have the data for 2024 here, I don't know why they don't have that yet. I mean, 2024 has come and passed, you know what I mean? But we can assume that in 2024, they made more money than they ever did, and that's just a fact. Like, WWE, even, like, I think, honestly, with TKO acquiring them, like, this money is just going to continue to skyrocket. And the thing is, too, in 2018, the reason why I believe that there was a big jump here, I mean, this is quite a jump here. So from 2014, they went from $542 million of revenue to 2018, almost $1 billion of revenue. I mean, That must have been doing something there. And I think one of the big things that skyrocketed the revenue was doing the shows in Saudi Arabia. Because it's really a booming market over there. Their economy. I've seen some metrics. It's going crazy over there. So to tap into that market it's a huge one. So I think that's obviously one of the biggest aspects as to why the company keeps earning more and more money as the years go on. But the thing I'm trying to say here is that just because the company is making a lot of money, yeah, it's booming. Like look, I'm not even gonna lie. The company with these numbers, 1.3 billion, earning more money a year, it's obviously booming. Like, that just means that they're getting a lot of advertisers. But does that mean that the product on screen is good? This is what I'm getting at here. You can't show people these financial numbers. Right, you can show people these financial numbers, and yeah, it looks like it's a success, but viewers don't care about how much money the company's making. They ain't looking at how much money the company's making and being like, oh, I have to like it because the company's earning so much money, you know what I mean? If the product on the screen is not good, people are not going to watch it. That's just a fact. It doesn't matter how much money you're earning. People on screen are not going to watch it. And as for if I think WWE is going to keep earning money, I obviously think they will, but at some point, I feel like there's going to come a point where Triple H's booking, he can't avoid if his booking gets so bad, it's only going to be the NPC fans and the casual fans that are going to be watching the product. I think all of the hardcore people, all the people that watched it in all the previous eras, the PG era, the Attitude era, the Ruthless Aggression era, all of those people will stop watching it if Triple H's booking continues on right now, because I see a lot of hardcore fans on the internet, and a lot of them I talk to where they're just like, the direction, the way the company's going, the booking, it's just so confusing, and I agree with them. Those people will stop watching, but that doesn't matter for the company. Honestly, the company doesn't care about hardcore fans anymore. And I know this because literally a few days ago, I was listening to Michael Cole on Logan Paul's podcast, Impulsive, and they said that the thing that they cared about the most was storytelling. So they care the most about storytelling and wrestling, but it seems like even the storytelling aspect isn't even that good. Like, you're a wrestling company and storytelling is your number one priority. I'm not saying, look, you need storytelling. Look, obviously the WWE is a sports entertainment company, so the idea that they wouldn't have stories or focus on stories would be stupid. Obviously they have to focus on stories, but the idea that it's more important than the wrestling, to me, is just really silly, you know what I mean? Alright, so I've gone through all of the data now, and now I'm sitting back down to record this again after looking at all the data. And in summary, I think the things that I've concluded is that now, obviously, 1 million people, that's obviously a lot of people. I think the fact that WWE can still get 1 million viewers in this day and age is impressive. With a lot of the stuff that's just been going on around the world, you know what I mean? The fact that it can, pull in that many viewers a week is impressive. But considering that it could do that really easily 20 years ago, during the Attitude Era, during any of these other eras in the past 10 years, you know what I mean? The fact that it could do it easily, whereas now you're starting to see the product decline, even in times where, this is supposed to be the road to WrestleMania right now. And the fact that I haven't been seeing the numbers recouping, or I haven't seen the numbers been going up, even though it's around the time of the Elimination Chamber, around the time of the Royal Rumble, the viewership looks relatively the same. It's not peaking yet, and I think that's a really telling sign that this road to WrestleMania 41 right now is not looking that good. And if they can't get this run right to WrestleMania, then how are they going to get the rest of the year right? What are the ratings going to look like when we're in the dog days of summer, like around SummerSlam time, when there's no month where there's a big 4 PLE, right? This is what I'm getting at here. You can say all you want that the product's good right now. That's an opinion, of course, whether the product is good or not right now. But you can't deny the fact that the ratings are going down, and the thought to not question how the thing and how the product is being run is just being completely oblivious and just keeping your head in the sand, really. if you really want this to work. It's like you could think the product is good, but in some capacity, there are wrestling fans out there that are not watching it like they used to. And if you have a concern for the future of the product, you have to answer those questions and ask why people aren't watching it the way they used to. Why, is it the booking? Is it the marketing of the product? That could certainly be it too. And that's going to do it for the main part of the video here. And now let's get into the channel update. What will be coming next, I'm thinking, right? So, this channel, I would say for about a majority of my channels, it's kind of a wild card what I'm really going to put up on it. But as for this channel, right, so we're on the podcast channel now, right? So this, I think, will be the only channel where I'll talk about sports and stuff like that in the future. Whether I'll do some gaming, some gaming content could end up on this one. Some personal content could end up on this one. Commentary content could end up on this one. I'm not ruling it out. And also, the name is changing. So I'll say in about a month or two, I'm going to change the name of the channel to something a little bit more relevant to what we cover on this channel. Just pretty much anything I feel like, right? And as for upcoming videos, I think there's going to be a good run here of videos that I already have pre-recorded. But as for the videos that I'm going to be recording next, it's going to be some more positive ones. So I'm going to be looking into AEW. How is that? How is AEW doing? Do I like that? I'm giving that a try. You know what I mean? Because WWE is not making me too happy right now, you know what I mean? And also, so I did make a video on 5 WWE wrestlers who I thought have had a disappointing 2025 so far. So, to respond to that video, I'm either going to do 5 superstars that I think should be pushed, given more of an opportunity to excel, or 5 superstars who I have seen that have been really surprising so far. So, you know what I mean? I think it's really important on YouTube that, negativity, it has a huge voice on here. There are a lot of channels where they're very narcissistic, you know what I mean? But I think you need to stay positive throughout it all too, so there's going to be some positivity coming, certainly. Along with being negative, to be positive too. Be negative, be negative if you want something to change, you know what I mean? That's the reason why you'd be negative, right? But if something's going great, if I start seeing the signs that, it's looking good again, I will be the first to tell you that, hey, it's looking great. The boom period has finally arrived, guys, right? that will be me, right? I'll be waving that flag. So, with all that being said, guys, whether you hate me, want me to quit YouTube, think I'm insufferable, or you really like my videos, no matter what, thank you for watching this far if you've made it. And with all that being said, guys, remember, we the ones.